get into fashion and design? Do you feel like there's a defining point, or?
I wouldn't really say there's like a defining point, but I used to watch a lot of Fashion File and fashion television when I was at my cottage, and I'd basically be there just with my parents, and they're baby boomers, so they're like an older generation, so I almost watched it out of boredom in a way, but I realized that when I'd see reruns, I'd recognize the designers, the collections, I can identify it without any effort. So it's just like something that came really naturally, and it was just like a sort of form of escapism in a way, such a way for me to fantasize about a different world or a different lifestyle while I was just like stuck at my cottage, which isn't like the worst place to be, but when you're alone and like in your teenage years, it's kind of boring. So I'd say that kind of influenced me to just like conceptualizing garments and thinking about the design world and like what it can do for you, just like in everyday life or in terms of like more dreamlike fantasy type creation. So I'd say that was my defining period about when I decided I want to go into fashion.
And how would you define your personal style? Do you feel like it's reflected in the work you produce?
I'd say so. I'd say I'm more like graphic, androgyny, just like clean, straight lines. I don't like things that are too gimmicky with like frills or all these like bells and whistles. So I'd say it's reflected in what I do, but I feel like what I create isn't quite what I want to create. I feel like there's something deeper in my like subconscious that I want to release, but it's just like not there yet. So I feel like my stuff is more simple, but like I'd like to achieve designs that are more like Givenchy. So it's like how it's masculine and feminine and strong, and it's simple and clean, but there's also lots of detail in it, but not in a way that distracts you from the actual person who's wearing it. So I think that's what I strive for, but right now it doesn't come naturally, so I'm not trying to achieve that quite yet.
And what was your inspiration for the pieces you created for the show?
I'd say my inspiration for the show is Georgia O'Keeffe. I was reading a bit about her, and just like how there's controversy about like her paintings, how like she paints like flowers close up, but people say that it looks like feminine, like female reproductive organs. So just like that, and also how she painted skulls. I believe they're like buffalo skulls, and I just really like skulls. So kind of like the contrast of like the skulls and the flowers, and just how some of the photographs that were taken by, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if it's like she married Stieglitz, but she was like in a relationship with a photographer, and just like how there's a kind of like a Western kind of dusty kind of look to the photographs. So just mixing like the Western with flowers in a way. So I'm doing a few techniques to my fabric where I'm rust dyeing my fabric. So I'm using rusty objects, and the rust rubs off onto the white fabric, so you get like that rusty kind of look. And also just using velvet, and I'm going to use bleach. So I'm using black velvet, and the bleach will make it turn into that kind of rusty gold color as well.
And what tips would you give anybody who's looking to get started in fashion and design?
I would say that you have to be pretty dedicated. You can't really do it going into it like half-assed, if I can say that. But just that there's lots of people out there who really want it, and if you want to be successful, or at least like if you're striving for something to be successful, then you have to be really dedicated to what you're doing. So that's my only advice. I'd say just like stay true to what you do instead of trying to do things that don't really correspond to your design style, unless you're forced to work in a certain company that has their own style. But if you're doing your own work, just try to do whatever is natural to you.
And you're put into a Freaky Friday situation where you can switch lives with anybody for a day. Who would it be and why?
That's a really, really tough one. Because part of me would just be like somebody who has a really awesome closet, but then that's not like, or somebody that does like a really like impactful kind of influence. I guess I can go back into time to someone who's not alive, but I'd have to say the only person that comes to mind right now is the performance artist, Marina Abramovich. She was like one of my, somebody that like I'd look up to, and just like she's a really interesting person and has definitely like influenced many people. So I think it'd be interesting to see what her daily life is like, and just see how people react to her and her role in the world.
And where can readers find out more about you and your work?
I am part of an art magazine at Ryerson called The Continuist, and I do submit some artwork and some things, like the past Wearable Art Show is on there, so you can read a bit about me there, but not all that much is out yet.